Today on the Pro Talk podcast. Remember when I introduced the Pro Talk podcast, I said I'd be talking to athletes, authors, entrepreneurs, business leaders, Hall of Famers, Olympians. I forgot one category, Emmy winners. That's right. Today we got an Emmy winner on board. But before we meet him, make sure you push the subscription button as well as the notification bell so you never miss another episode of the Pro Talk podcast and another conversation with another amazing professional. So what's it like to be on TV? I don't know. It's probably more than just being on TV behind a camera. But what we're going to find out today, it's what's really like to work in TV. Today, as I mentioned, he's an Emmy-winning producer, director, nominated for more than one Emmy. He spent over 42 years in TV, working on products, shows for, let's see, he produced shows for the Olympics, Super Bowls, Major League Baseball playoffs, soccer, World Cup, Wimbledon, U.S. Open, French Open, and even the cricket finals. So without any further ado, I'm proud to say I know him as a friend, and I've heard some of the stories of the TV world. He was even kind enough to let my kids see a behind-the-scenes tour of the Weather Channel, and it was pretty amazing to see all the things that go on. So without any more talk from me, let's welcome Mr. Howard Sappington to the Pro Talk podcast. What's up, Howard?
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So, is working in TV more stressful or more fun?
I'd say a little bit of both. Probably depends on what you're doing at the time. It's definitely high stress, but there's a lot of fun, especially when I worked in sports. You know, you're around guys that, have the same passion and love for sports as you do. And everyone's, we're doing what we love. We grew up playing sports and, watching sports and reporting on sports, and everyone's, and they're fans of everywhere, like I'm a Georgia fan, but, you're arguing with a Ohio State fan or Michigan fan, or, there's just people from all backgrounds that come together for love of sports. So that's the fun part. It's stress. You got deadlines, constant, you got long range deadlines, you got short range deadlines. Depends on what you're doing. If you're line producing a show every night, that's really stressful. Every day you wake up, you're like, man, I got to do this again, and then, you have budget deadlines. You have, if you're doing long form, like I finished my career doing, you have longer deadlines. They're not as tight as a day-to-day show.
So, with your background, you started out of college in 1983 working for as a producer, field producer for CNN Sports. So now tell us, people that don't know what the heck that is. What's a producer? What's a field producer? What'd you do?
So actually I started as an intern at CNN Sports and worked my way up through production. A producer is if you're producing a show, you're doing everything. You're like the band leader, you're the orchestrator of the whole process. So you're putting together a rundown, which, what the stories are, what the games, what the highlights are, what the news stories are. You're putting that in order. You're putting in where the commercials go. You're putting the graphics, the videos. You're managing a team. So you got to tell them what tapes to cut, what videos to cut now. You're working with talent. So you're telling them what to writing for them. You're working, you put all that together, and then you go into a control room, and then you have to work with the director who's calling the technical shots, technical director, graphics operator, audio. So you're kind of controlling the whole show. But as a field producer, you're out in the field, you're in charge, but it's a different thing. You're organizing ahead of time who you're going to talk to, where you're going to go, all the logistical stuff, like where you're staying. People don't think about this, but airlines, hotels, you're having to do all that. And then you're also having to figure out, set up interviews ahead of time, or interviews in the field. What stories you're telling, if things are always changing. constantly changing. You're constantly having to adapt in the field. So it's a big difference.
Now you mentioned journalism. Was that your major in college?
Yeah, journalism was my major.
Okay, so you went to University of Georgia.
Yeah.
And this is where I look at your coffee mug and bark and go dogs, woof, 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 woof. I wore the red for you, brother.
Nice,
So,
nice.
okay, so you mentioned, we both play tennis and we both love sports. And half the time we're on the tennis court, we talk about other sports besides tennis. Your background as a kid, at what age did you decide, hey, I want to go into journalism?
You know, I love it was a passion of mine thinking about, I think I'm a fairly creative person, so what I enjoy writing and things like that. I didn't really know if I was going to go into television or not. It was in college when I decided really that I wanted to go into journalism. And I actually majored in public relations and not like news gathering or news production. So, and then
Did
I
you?
just kind of fell into knew someone who knew someone, you know how it goes. And then they take a chance on you and you go from there.
And you worked your
But I knew
tail
I
off.
love sports. And I wanted to kind of work in the sports field,
Right. Now, did you have a particular professor or mentor that was difficult on you, first of all, and pushed you because he knew that there was something more in you that you might not have known about?
Not in school, I didn't. No, more my, mentors were probably at work, the people that I worked with, that I learned from a lot from osmosis, really.
Now, you
Like a guy,
mentioned,
Nick Charles, was really my mentor because if you don't know him, he was a great sportscaster. I produced for him and Fred Hickman for years. Um, and just watching the way he worked, the way he dressed, the way he was a true pro. But then more importantly, he cared about every little detail, writing. In those days, we used typewriters and script paper, thick 7-ply that you'd have to rip and hand out. So you give him a story to write, like say a 30-second story on Rob Carver getting traded to the Steelers. And he would sit there, he'd type it out, he'd rip it out, he'd throw it in the trash. He'd do that like 5 times for every story and just keep whittling it down, whittling it down, whittling down. So
wow, attention to detail. And you and I think, or the people on the outside are thinking, hey, he just mentioned so and so got stole or traded.
yeah, yeah. People don't know that there's so many details in television,
Right. And the
Putting
real
together a production it's all about details.
and the real pros just make it look easy
Yeah.
because of their preparation like an athlete, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you think that's helped you, your athletic background? Now you were a standout baseball player. That was
Yeah.
probably your best sport, and you played tennis. So do you find that the daily discipline to be a good athlete helped you once you got into the professional fields?
Yeah, absolutely. The discipline, the competitiveness, you have to be super competitive. We didn't want ESPN beating us. We didn't want, anyone beating us. So you're super competitive. I think that helps more than anything in doing what we do, but also the preparation, the details, the professionalism. Yeah, it all comes from sports.
So you mentioned that you were telling me, and you sent me something I thought was amazing about. Can you tell us about the influence of William McPhail?
Yeah, Bill was a person that kind of took a chance on me coming out of college, and great guy. He was a Yankees traveling secretary, I believe, for a while. His father was president of the New York Yankees. His brother Lee McPhail was the president of the American League in baseball, and he hired Frank Gifford and Pat Summerall to name a couple at CBS. He's also credited with the first to utilize slow motion instant replay. I think it was in an Army Navy game. So he kind of came up with that or developed that. Then he came to CNN Sports. They said, hey, Ted Turner hired him to start a sports department, but he was great. Bill hired Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, Craig Sager, Vince Cellini, Dan Hicks, Dan Patrick, Hannah Storm. The list goes on and on. Just had a great eye for talent. But he was just a great guy. He'd go to a restaurant and sit next to someone before you knew it, he's friends with them but friends. I mean, he wouldn't just go, "Oh, hey, Rob, how you doing? You know, you're a great guy." He would get your number and he would follow up and he would be friends with all these people. Like it was crazy. I mean, he was just an amazing man. But he also he had something on his desk that we all loved and we all made copies of. And it was he wrote it, "Take time to do these things." And it was think, play, read, worship, help needy people, show love, daydream, and laugh. So all 8 things a day.
Daily disciplines, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you going back to when you said being competitive helped, I was going to ask you, and my first thought was who Dan Patrick calls the mothership, ESPN. So I remember flipping around one night going, "Oh, this show looks cool." And I do remember Fred Hickman and Nick Charles. They were very welcoming and friendly, and it was different than ESPN. And depending if ESPN's game was still going on, I'd just flip over to Sports Night. And I didn't have a favorite, but from your perspective, how do you guys take on a big giant like that? Because you guys were known for just the news, right?
Well, we couldn't take them on after they started getting, live events. That's when they really pulled ahead.
Yeah.
That's when we really couldn't compete with them because, they had live events, live games. We held our own on Sports Tonight, and then, Sports Center just took off and they aired it all the time.
Yeah.
But then we created CNN Sports Illustrated, which a network, another sports network, which I thought was really, I thought we were really good. We just didn't have the distribution to really compete with them on a long-term basis because we didn't have enough viewers. But we hired people like Stephen A. Smith. We were the first to put him on television. We had Peter King. People like we had a lot of those SI writers. We called insiders. So they were the first. We gave them their first breaks on television.
So, okay. So you went from 83 at CNN Sports and then to CNN SI. Did CNN Sports dissolve or did you guys merge that? How'd that work?
Yeah, we just, that CNN SI became a network, but then we would still do shows on CNN, sports shows on CNN.
And so a coordinating producer was your title. And so you have more stuff underneath you.
Yeah, but then I started CNN International Sports.
Okay.
So that was that was really the highlight of my career, I believe, because World Sport is still the only sports show at CNN that still exists, and I started from scratch with another young guy from Wales. We started a 15-minute show a day, and it just exploded. The advertisers loved it, and then it went 30 minutes, then 30 minutes, then like 4, and it just kept going.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, and I was going to ask this later, but I'll go ahead and ask it now. What would you rather do? Produce a 30-minute show or have a big production, a 2-hour Sunday night show? What's easier? I don't know. What's more fun?
I would say the bigger, the longer is probably more fun, or a special or a documentary, something like that. The day-to-day stuff just grinds you down after a while.
Just intense because it's got to be good every day.
Yeah.
Like a relief pitcher instead of a starter. All right. So CNNSI, and you go to executive producer 2004. So the landscape of that, I want to ask you about the changes of your field, that every field, even, tennis with the evolution of just string technology, for instance, you are sitting there in 1983 with VHS tapes, correct?
Not even then. It was more 3/4 inch. It was 1-inch tapes on a big reel.
Okay.
Then it was 3/4 inch tapes on a, like a VHS, but it was 3/4 inch. And then we developed Beta, which was it was way better, but it's still on a tape. It was actual tape. And then after that, the SX tape was a digital but tape still. And then, and then it all became tapeless, which we've seen has just been amazing. The technology has changed so so much in
Yeah.
my time in television.
Now we just send a video over the phone
Yeah,
and in high
yeah,
quality. Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
It's amazing.
is there some big warehouse somewhere with all those VHS archived?
Probably somewhere. Yeah, yeah. It'd be great. I've always heard the NFL Films Library is supposed to be pretty massive with
Ah, I
all those
bet.
tapes in there.
Yeah. Oh, how cool. Okay, so when you are out with all these different events that you worked, what was the most favorite sporting event you've ever worked?
That's an easy question. Had to be the World Cup in '98 in France because the French team eventually won, came out of nowhere, basically. People didn't give them a chance. People didn't even know who they were. And they ended up winning the World Cup that year on home soil.
And you're
And it
there.
was just amazing. I mean, the grounds, they'd win the first couple of games. And people weren't paying attention. And then just the people watching a game on a big screen in, the middle of Paris was just incredible.
Oh, that's a party for the whole country,
Yeah.
huh? Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, there's an interview with, let's go to Wimbledon, and you have an interview with Pete Sampras. Well, everybody expects, okay, Pete Sampras to do an interview with you guys, interview with ESPN. Let's just say you two. How do you guys go about that? I mean, the average fan's like, well, we think that Pete Sampras wants to sit down with you, but why I'm using him as an example, he's an introvert. He probably doesn't want to talk to anybody. How in the world do you do that? How do you crack his team and shell and get to have that?
So Pete's a great example because what a great guy. I got to know him pretty well. And me and one of our talent, Phil Jones from England, really got to know him really well because we were always there at tournaments. And he would eventually, I think he really needed to trust you before he kind of opened up. But so to get back to your question, you do talk ahead of time, you talk to their team, their PR people or agents, whatever you can find. Hey, we're coming, we want to talk to Pete. Okay, whatever. But then we got to a point where you would see him. I got to the point where I would see him practicing or whatever. And we would just catch eyes and he'd go, "Hey, you need me?" I go, "Yeah."
Oh,
I
wow.
go, when you want to do it? Hey, about tomorrow at 2. Okay, we'll be here. And sure enough, after his practice, we uh, get to talk to him.
Now, okay, so let me ask you this. I know you as a professional, you'd probably say, no way in the world would you do this. Was there ever a tempting side of you to say, what the heck? I'm going to see if he wants to hit sometime.
I always wanted to try that, but
Yeah.
yeah. The only guys I ever hit with, which as well, probably is Luke and Murphy. I hit a couple times with them.
Okay. Okay. What if there's somebody, all right, there's a famous golfer that had a scandal. We're not going to mention his name. Everybody in the world's wanting the first interview. And you might say, on a human side, let's give that guy space. But professionally, your boss is saying, you get your butt out there and I want the first interview. Man, when you have a delicate subject like that, what are the steps and the professionals? Is it because you have a relationship and they trust you? How's that work?
Yeah, usually for that kind of high profile, it's usually you lean on the talent, like a Jim Huber or someone, or someone that knows him, like not so much really personally, but kind of, like he's been around him a lot, he's interviewed him a lot. So you kind of lean on those people to try to help get the interviews like that.
Yeah.
And work through their agents, which is difficult. And I'll just mention, Tiger was great when you got to him, but it took a while to get to him.
Hmm. Okay. Now,
But I will say, after he won the British, I, I couldn't have met him more. Like, he was just like, when he broke the record, I think Jack's record at St. Andrews, and I was there, it was just incredible. Like, to see he was really moved to win that tournament. So, and he was happy to talk to people.
right. Now, okay. So I heard Dan Patrick say one time that he was supposed to be or he was in the Red Sox locker room in '86. So he's working for you guys then. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And he sees Bob Costas also in there, and the champagne and the plastics going up, and then the things transpire on the field to where there's no interview. What are you telling your guy? Get the crap out of there and go interview the Mets now, or do you stick around and try to get a soundbite from the losing team? How do you decide when to handle that?
So you're saying they lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's trying to get an interview with the losing team. Is that what you're?
Well, he was going to be on the interviewing the winning team, thinking
But
that
then
the
they
Red
ended up
Sox are going to
losing.
win.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. So do you tell him to say, "Hey, stay in there and see if you can get a soundbite, but you lost. Let's get out of here." And
yeah. It's kind of on the fly. You make decisions on the fly, and usually in that case, we would have had two teams. We would have had one in the winning, one in the losing. So hopefully you're able to get both sides. But yeah, nothing's ever the same. It's like any job or in most jobs. I think stuff happens, and you got to just react on the fly a lot especially when you're in the field. I mean, stuff just changes constantly.
mm-hmm. Now, have you guys ever had a situation where you had an interview set up with an athlete, and the athlete caught an attitude that morning and decided not to do it or blew it off? Now you got to make that phone call back to Atlanta and say, "Hey, boss, we struck out." Did that happen ever?
Oh yeah, happened a lot. There's you know nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do.
Okay, so that
But
guy
it does happen. It happens a lot.
really.
Yeah.
So they just don't feel like talking, so they don't show up, or do they
Yeah.
some people give a courtesy call, say, "Hey, I'm not up for this today"?
Some do, some just don't show. Yeah.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Now, how many strikeouts do you get before you say, "I'm not going to deal with this guy anymore"?
I guess it depends on the person. If it's if it's a big enough name, you got to try to keep getting them.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
But some people, you just it's not worth the effort.
Right. Wow, that's got to be tough because it's like, let's say it's the golf world. There's a tournament next week, next week, and you're still dealing with somebody that's difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So who was the best interview? I mean, the biggest star that was the nicest person, because I've heard that once or twice from some couple of people in the business saying, "Hey, the bigger the star, the nicer they are." I don't know if that's true. You'd like to think that if you're at that level, you'd be super nice.
Yeah. I mean, well, you mentioned Pete Sampras. I thought he was the nicest, I think, athlete I ever dealt with. Evander Holyfield was a great guy. You could call him. He lived, not too far. He lived south of Atlanta, and so I'd call him and go, "Hey, Evander, can you come on tonight?" He goes, and he would always come on the show, and he would always say, "Hey, what do you want me to wear?" I'd
Oh,
say,
wow.
whatever you want." He'd always show up impeccably dressed in a suit and tie.
How about that?
And Michael Jordan was, I always enjoyed talking to Michael Jordan. I thought he was just a down to earth person, really, really responsive.
So that's in the days of CNNSI 95 to 2000, and the Bulls are in the heyday, and they were accessible. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Did you ever cross paths with Mr. Rodman? How was that?
No, I never got a chance to talk to him.
You'd have to be going out to Vegas, I guess, to find him, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So if I'm a kid these days and I'm in college, or if I'm your son and I say, "Dad, what do I need to major in to get into your profession?" Or would you even tell your kid to go to college?
That's a great point. Nowadays, I might say, hey, if you want to get in this, don't waste your time going to college. Go get an internship at a TV or radio station, or do whatever you can do. Start at the bottom like I did. Just get your foot in the door somehow. Because if you you don't really need a college degree to do that if you have a passion for it.
Right.
I think it helps. Like if you go to a radio, TV, film degree, it's going to help you. You're going to be ahead of the game. But you can learn so fast. In real life, in a newsroom or in a studio.
Right.
That's what I learned in college but I majored in PR, but still what I learned in college. I guess news writing really helped me, things like that. But you can learn everything on the job. It's like on the job training.
So you mentioned earlier about writing, and you wrote stuff. So when that anchor is sitting there telling you about Ken Griffey Jr. going 4 for 5, 6 RBIs, 2 home runs, whatever, are you the one writing that, or can the talent, because it seemed like everybody at CNN Sports, news sports. So it's not like I'm just I'm the hired help to read the cue cards. How's that
Yeah,
work?
so at CNN Sports, they the talent all wrote their copy, and they wanted to, which was great. I thought, they wanted to tell the story themselves, and so didn't wrote stuff, but not extensively. When I got to the Weather Channel, I wrote more and more.
So okay, so let's say I'm Fred Hickman and I write my stuff. Do I have to show it to you? Hey, I'm going to say this, and then
Yep,
okay,
and that's another job. The producer had to copy edit their script. Go, Fred, where'd you get that? Like you can't say that. Like so you'd have to change that.
okay,
Absolutely, yeah. There's always a checks and balances.
yeah. And these days with people
But
being
sometimes things get by you and you're like, oh man, I missed that, or
yeah, was the hypersensitive. Oh, I said this, it meant that. Give me a break. I guess it's even more challenging these days.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So did you enjoy that because it was sports on the daily basis?
The producing
Yeah,
or yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed also video editing and interviewing people, but yeah, but it does grind. You can't do it, I don't think, for your whole career. It just grinds you down. I mean, it's really consuming, stressful. I think it's the hardest job in TV.
really. So like for instance, if you did Wimbledon, British Open's what, 3 weeks after that?
Yeah.
Now, did you do that and then go do the British Open too?
Yeah, I just stay there usually yeah, stay over there.
I mean, it's like you said, it's when you think about sports, there's so many things going on. I mean, can your boss say, "Hey, time out, bro. You've been working," because there's always something covered to be covered,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, like in international sports, we didn't cover everything. We just cover the big events. So it wasn't like you're covering, ordinary. You're not going to say Premier League games on a regular basis, and covering those.
Yeah.
But we did, I hired talent and a producer in London who would do that type of thing, just not all the time. But
Hmm.
we had a crew in London.
So I have a question about a particular broadcaster. It seems like the joke is, I wonder whose nephew he is. Like that line in Moneyball. This particular guy does tennis and he does football, and then he's back to tennis, and the next night he's on another football. Like, how much is nepotism and stuff like that, or I don't know. You see somebody, they fit a certain profile. That seems real. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to have talent. I don't think you can, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's it's probably not is what you think. It's I think you can't just be given something. You still got to know what you're doing and know and be a professional at it. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I answered your question very well, but
Well, I don't know. It just seems, I guess the credibility factor. Sometimes you hear somebody on a sideline talking about a sport, you go, have they ever played that sport? It doesn't seem like they even know what they're talking about. And then they're at the next big gig or the next event. And you go, I guess they know somebody in the business, or so I
yeah,
guess,
well, it's like everywhere. You got to know someone, right, to get places. And I think my wife was on camera and she's Mexican and she came here to work in sports and she knew a lot about soccer and NFL, but she didn't know anything about tennis or golf or baseball, so she learned, but she worked hard, like I think And I think the more and more you do it, like playing tennis or teaching tennis, the more and more you do it, you're going to get good at it, right? I mean, you would hope, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you were at the Weather Channel, I got to ask you this. What's the craziest assignment that you ever out in the field did?
There's a lot of those.
Well, let us know. I mean, because it looks like there's only a couple people on TV that are crazy to do these hurricane things.
Yeah, I was in Katrina. I was in Wilma. I was in all the major hurricanes from like 2004 to 2010, probably. So those are crazy. You never know what to expect. Everyone's different. But then I also I learned to not only produce, write, edit, but to shoot videos with a camera. So me and another guy went around doing a Cantori stories. And so we did some crazy stuff like fly over the volcano in Hawaii in a helicopter. And the guy's turning it. So we're like right in, almost looking right down there, like really close. Things going out to the volcano on a boat. You know, you're in the ocean because the lava's flowing into the ocean. And so you're out there on the boat and you're like right up to the lava flow in the ocean. It was pretty, some crazy stuff we did. That's just what I thought of off the top of my head, but
Oh my goodness. Does your wife know you're about to go check out a volcano?
nah.
Oh, it's weather related, right?
Yeah.
All right, give us some more that people want to know. Okay, so like when you say you went out and did a hurricane, okay, what's the step? Because I remember you told me about the energy level in the whole building at the Weather Channel when there's a tropical depression, 15 days out, everybody's excited.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like a Super Bowl, for weather. It's it's the biggest thing that we would cover all year because it's just so powerful. It's the most powerful force in nature, really. And to be there, the whole company just ramps up and amps up. There's so much energy. People that go out, you got to prepare for that too. You gotta buy. People don't realize how much goes into that. Like you got to pick a hotel. You got to find a hotel that's going to stay open. You got to find a hotel that's going to stay open that's safe enough to be in, and that
so,
you can go up if you need to from the surge. Backup locations. Like, oh, if this happens, and back in that time we were using satellite trucks, and you had to protect them too because the satellite. You had to find a place, a building that you could park up next to where the wind's coming, so the satellite dish wouldn't fly off the truck, and or get flooded. You had to buy food ahead of time. You had to stop and you had to dress right, but you had to get snacks and water and everything just in case. There's no restaurants. You had to get gas and be prepared for gas stations not to be open. So there's so much that really goes into it that people have no idea.
absolutely. And so you start calling hotels and they're like, we're closing, sir. Why do you need a room? Do you say, hey, we're the Weather Channel. Can you leave us
Yeah,
a room?
yeah, and so before the storm, you're there and you got a hotel and you're there for. But then as it gets closer and closer, they're going, "Hey, we're going to close." They send out flyers under your door. Oh, we're closing tomorrow. And you're like, "Okay, we got to find another hotel." So you spend a lot of time. You got to still be working, but you also have to be driving around talking to hotels like, "Hey, are you going to be staying open? Can we? We're the Weather Channel." Sometimes they would let us stay there just because they're going to keep maybe one person there and they felt good about us being there with them. So you always, that was a real challenge trying to find hotels.
And so here we are sitting at home watching all this thinking someone's really taking care of you guys.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so when people go out and you see the reporter standing in the water, where are you during this as a producer or field producer?
You're there either outside with them or back in the day, like I said, when we had satellite trucks, you're in the truck communicating with him through his IFB or through to Atlanta. So you're in and out, you're with them, you're outside, you're with them. But then once technology improved, you didn't need satellite trucks anymore. We use live views, which enables you to live from anywhere, with just a little pack, Um, so that helped. That you could be anywhere, a lot safer, a lot different places, easier to move around.
Now, was it ever scary?
Yeah, but your adrenaline's pumping so much. It's I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's fascinating to be in that and see the power and the force and the water and just the destruction. Not that you never want destruction, but you see it. So you're not really. I think we're smart enough not to put ourselves in huge danger, because if you know things are changing, you got to get inside somewhere, and protect yourself. But yeah, it's scary to a certain extent, but I think your adrenaline takes over.
You're a braver man than me, dude. I mean, hearing that's like, what?
Nah, you'd enjoy it.
I don't know. You say when you talk about that destruction, it's not good unless you got the camera rolling and you get that footage of it, right?
Yeah, before I did one, I thought it was going to be a lot more scary, but it's kind of eerily. It's eerie. There's no one around.
Yeah.
It starts and it builds, and it's pretty fantastic. It's fascinating.
And so, but you guys have like, knowledge beforehand that you're probably going to be rocky for the next X amount of hours. Then we should be okay. Just hang in there. And is it kind of scary, like when the power goes out and it's you 5 or 6 people?
Yeah, I'll tell you when it's the scariest. It's when you're trying to sleep at night and the hurricane's just starting and you're hearing all the wind start and pick up and your lights go out. That's the scare. I think to me that was the scariest part.
Sure. All you want to do is sleep.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, I got another question for you here about the weather. Does Jim Cantori truly get excited about what is it, the thunder
Thunder
in
snow.
wintertime? Yeah,
Thunder snow.
he
Yeah,
just
you
goes
can look it up on
bonkers.
YouTube. He loves that more than any weather event in the world.
Now explain that to us. It's like a July thunderstorm in the winter, right?
Well, it's just a big storm in the winter, and there's friction. There's clouds, and they're creating thunder. It's more of when there's a powerful winter storm. A lot of times you'll have thunder in it.
Wow. So going back, you said you did Katrina. How much of that was staying around New Orleans after the floods and stuff, or were you there right as it began? Because that sucker was so unbelievable. Some of the video.
I wasn't there when it happened. I went in afterwards. I went to Gulfport right after it happened because that was like really ground zero,
Hmm.
and that whole Mississippi coast just got flattened. And then subsequently, went back and did a ton, probably 10, 12 times to New Orleans and Mississippi to do stories uh, of aftermath. And
Yeah.
I just produced a special in August of the 20-year anniversary of Katrina.
So I remember hearing that it was going to take 10 years to rebuild it, but
It's
okay,
still not. It's still areas that aren't built back, like the lower Ninth Ward in New
really.
Orleans.
Are they afraid of it happening again, or it just no money to do it, or what?
I think it's just it's infrastructure, it's money, it's protection. What areas are protected, more protected now?
Well, it's so much of it, like they have cemeteries above ground there in New Orleans. And if you look at those levees, they're not that high.
Yeah, they've done a good job with that new protection system there
Yeah.
in New Orleans, but Mississippi Gulf Coast is still, there's nothing you can do, just
Yeah.
if they get that surge, it's just gonna do the same thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
build higher now, so the water will go under structures,
Yeah.
but
From
that's
what
their only protection, really.
from what you've seen, is it more wind damage from hurricanes or the water damage afterwards?
Water, by far.
Really?
Waters, that surge just flattens everything.
Golly.
It's amazing.
I guess there's a blessing. I guess it was because it was summertime and it wasn't cold water would be pretty much worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's the worst disaster that you ever witnessed?
Probably Katrina.
Is that right?
That was probably the worst.
Wow. Is there on your bucket list of sporting events? I mean, is there something you haven't seen? Because I know you've gone to a bunch.
Mm, hmm. Um, I guess I haven't been to the Australian Open tennis, so I guess that would be the one.
Yeah, when it's cold here in Atlanta in January, you go there, right?
Yeah, I covered the Olympics in Australia, but not the Australian Open.
How many Olympics did you cover?
Probably 4 or 5, counting winter and summer,
So now, is that
and
like
three World Cups.
when you do the Olympics? How soon before do you start? Like a week before the events start to set up? Or?
Nah, months.
Really? On
Yeah.
site, or you just
No, no, no.
that's on
Months
the.
planning.
I got you. Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you go, yeah, probably a week ahead of time or so.
So how's that work? Like you guys have a hotel space somewhere and you just stay there until it's all done?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you've covered that. So who was your biggest mentor in the whole broadcasting business?
And broadcast, I would say I think I mentioned Nick Charles just because I learned so much from him just by watching, more
Mhm.
than anything.
Yeah.
I love the way he wrote. Jim Huber was a great writer too. He was more flowery, and Nick was Nick put emotion in, but he was also more direct and straightforward. They both were great writers. I learned a lot from both of those guys. But just Nick's professionalism, and he wanted to be right. He wanted everything to be perfect,
Yeah.
perfectionism.
Yeah. So, what is the scariest thing that you ever did in the business? Like, for instance, do you had an idea for a show or a segment or interview that you didn't know if it was going to fly with your bosses, or did you ever have one of those moments?
Um, Trying to think. That's a tough one. Yeah, well, yeah. Covering Mike Tyson we were in London before a fight, and he was sparring in the hotel. He was doing we had set up an interview. He'd gone and done a print interview in the corner with a boxing writer, and then he was going to come to us. And I don't know what the writer said or asked or something, but he just blew up like you just heard him yelling like, "Oh man, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know if our interview is going to happen." But I was with Nick, and Nick was like his almost like a father to him somehow. He knew him so well, and he goes, "Don't worry, let me see what I can do." And he pulled him aside after that interview, and because Tyson was still kind of raging around, we're like, "Oh no, he's gonna blow us off." But Nick calmed him down, talked to him, got him down. We did the interview, and
Nice.
yeah, Tyson loved him. He was actually at his funeral and delivered a eulogy at Nick's funeral.
Wow. So, where are you in this? Are you right behind the camera, or do you go talk to the athlete and say, "Hey, this is so and so. He's going to talk to you. We need 10, 15 minutes," or
Yeah, it was set up ahead of time, but I'm right there.
yeah.
I'm right there with Nick and with the camera, uh, setting up the interview, the angles, that kind of thing.
Okay, where's the strangest place you've done an interview?
Um, hmm, hmm. It's been a lot of those. Uh, Strangest place. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for
Okay,
that.
that's all right. All right, now you told me this years ago. Tell me the story about. I think were you in Saddlebrook with Pete Sampras
Yeah.
and the reporter in his Porsche? Could you give us that story?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we were talking to him, and I said we interviewed him at Saddlebrook, and then I said, "Hey, you gonna take us to your house now and show us around?" And he looked at me like I was like, "Oh," he looked at me really weird. He goes, "Sure, come on." So we we followed him over there, and he showed us his trophies, and things like that. So,
That's cool. All right. Off topic as far as out of the business, personally, who's your favorite athlete of all time?
wow. Just pure,
Whether you knew him or dealt with him professionally doesn't matter. Just your favorite
wow.
athlete.
Favorite athlete, Allen Iverson.
Really? All right. Tell us about that. Why?
Just because I love the way he was about our size, right? Like he wasn't a big dude, and man, he was fearless. I love the way he threw his body around and just his athleticism, but just his, you know,
Guts.
the way he competed every night in and night out. And I love the whole practice thing, like, but he was right, right? I mean, he's like, he put his body on the line every night.
Yeah. But you weren't a Sixer fan. You just love the way he competed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now tell
And
me
then
your
maybe probably second Herschel Walker.
okay. You probably talked to him a couple times being a Georgia guy, right?
Yeah, not too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was at Georgia when he was always really friendly at Georgia
Yeah.
around campus.
So who's your all-time favorite sports team, pro or college?
Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay, what year? Just be a
Oh,
little
my
more.
favorite team?
Yeah, favorite team.
Oh, in a year. Well, probably the 80 team with Herschel
Yeah.
that won the national championship.
Yeah, I was lucky to be there. My dad, we had moved south that summer, and my dad knew, we got tickets, and so we were there in the
Yeah,
Superdome
I
watching
was
it.
there too. Yeah,
He jumped over the end zone right there in front of us. It was pretty cool.
that's great.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what's your favorite book?
Oh God, man, favorite book. Phew. I'd have to think about that. I used to when I was younger. I liked Everybody's All American. You remember that one?
I do.
I actually got to work some with Frank DeFord. I loved all his writing. Uh, I think did he write? I think he wrote that book.
It sounds like you might have. Yeah. Oh. All right. So the title of the Emmy, what was it? I've probably butchered it in the intro. It was for what? Outstanding breaking news coverage. The
Yeah,
Emmy you
yeah,
guys
for
won.
Hurricane Helene from
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah. So it's
That was just for like all of our coverage, just where we were, the expertise, the field, a little bit of everything.
So if I'm a kid and I say yes, go into TV, or no, or yes, go in with open ears and be very flexible.
Well, yeah. What would I say to 'em?
Yeah. What would the advice be?
I don't know if I could recommend that to someone at this time. It's a tough industry,
Yeah.
You work overnights, you work nights, holidays, you don't see your family regularly. It's a tough career. It's a tough life if you go into news. Now,
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to go into like feature or series production, I think that's more fun. It's not as exciting, but it's more creative.
Hmm. So how do you see the future of TV these days as a sports fan? It drives me nuts that I've got this particular service, yet this network is only on that service. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, I'm paying $100 as it is. And now I got to buy this one for this and that. And it's like, good night. Seems like they've got us held hostage to, I want to have one streaming service. How do you see things in the future? Is it contracts with the companies and networks, or what?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be fragmented and it's going to have to change at some point, right? So where you can have one service and see everything all we used to do, or else I think no one's going to just keep paying for individual services just to get games. I don't think. Do you?
I don't know, because it's, the team I want to watch tonight's on a network that's holding out their contract on my service. And it's like, well, okay, then I have to buy this other service. And then it's like, well, then I've got a lot of redundancy and I'm paying X amount of money just to watch a game. I was talking to some buddies of mine, and they said, I wish everything was pay-per-view. And one of the guys said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, if I want to watch a game, I'll pay $5 and put it on my card and I'll watch it on a certain network." And I'm like, well, that seems too easy. But I mean, you mentioned boxing. That's the way it used to be. If you want to watch that fight, you get 5, 6 buddies and you all pitch in $5 and there's your $50, whatever. I don't know. It seems nuts to me that, you pay $100 and it's like, well, that's good except for this network and that network, and that holds basketball. And the way the NFL is these days, it's like, okay, there's how many nights a week? You got Sunday night, Thursday night, and now they're going to be throwing in some Saturday games on this network. Thursday night's a different network. And it's like, your head's spinning.
Yeah, I don't know. And is TV going to even exist in a few? Is it all going to be, you're just going to be watching on your phone? I mean,
I hope not.
it's going to keep changing.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows, what'll be next in television, like the high def came out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
it's 3D, was trying, but that never, really panned out.
Now, was there much talk? I saw a thing with those VR things that you could subscribe and you could feel like you're sitting on the front row of NBA games. I didn't do that, but I thought that I've seen those advertisements. I don't know. We almost sit around like wearing our helmets to watch TV either.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. There was that was like a big deal for a while. It seems like it's kind of faded, hasn't it?
Yeah. Again, the comfort level of watching TV with this helmet on your head.
Yeah.
No. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. You've given us some good insights and some good stories. And if I know of any young kid that I coach is wanting to get into your field, I'll pass them on to you.
Yeah,
So
tell him to talk to me.
there you go. Harold's the man.
All right, Rob.
Well, I appreciate your time. And again, Howard Sappington, 42 years plus experience in the TV world. Hope everybody enjoyed our conversation with him. And again, Howard, thanks for your friendship and thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate it very much. Until next time, make the most of your time and hang tough.